Okay, realtors, are you charging what you're worth? Are you discounting your fees in an effort to win business? Because in this video, what I want to do is I want to help you charge what you're worth so that you're not discounting your fees to win business, because what you're actually doing is devaluing yourself. And I don't want you to do that. I know how hard you work for your commission checks. I know how hard you work to help your sellers and your buyers make sure they get what they want. So today I'm going to give you a 4C framework to help you understand how to charge what you're worth. You ready? Let's go. All right, 4Cs. The first is create, which is understand how value is created for customers in general, but specifically for your real estate sales customers. The second is confidence, knowing your value deep within your soul so that you can portray that in a confident manner to consumers. People buy confidence. People buy your sense of self-worth and knowledge and deep understanding of the value you provide. The third C is communicate. You've got to be able to articulate your value. Sometimes I've found that realtors will, or salespeople in general, will acquiesce to the consumer because they'd rather have the business at less money or a lower fee than no business at all. And so they don't even communicate their value very effectively. And then the fourth C is counter or defend your value, right? Counter objections. And I'll talk to you about that. Okay, so let's first start with who gets paid the most in any given profession. And what I want to distinguish is the difference between a generalist and a specialist. Okay, so a generalist is someone who has a general knowledge or a general idea of a certain level of service, a certain skill set, a certain vocation. Let's say a general dentist, right? Now, we need general dentists. They're very valuable in our lives, of course. Hopefully you're going to the dentist often. But of course, then there's specialists. Specialists like orthodontists, endodontists, periodontists, right? And we all know that those ortho, perio, endodontists earn a higher living than the general dentist. Why? Because they have more specialized knowledge. They have more specialized skill. And so what I want you to do as a real estate professional is I want you to think about your specialization. And when it comes to your specialization, it really will come down to a few areas of specialization. Number one, do you have a specific niche that you are a specialist in? Some of my agents focus on senior specialists. Others focus on waterfront or luxury or oceanfront condos or luxury gated home communities. Here we're in South Florida, so we have all these different property types. And when you become known and specialized in either a neighborhood, a product type, we're in a type of customer, right? You work with customers over the age of, here we have active adult communities, 55 and older communities, and they work and live and need special attention, special skills, because their needs are special, right? So are you a specialist? So what I want you to think about on your path to becoming a specialist is, have you identified your most ideal customer or your customer avatar? That could be both a demographic and a psychographic distinction. So what are the demographics, right? Age, location or type of property, could be an income level, could be a price point for the house that they own or property that they own or want to own. So that would be more of a demographic. And then there are the psychographic aspects of picking your customer. How do they think, and what kind of lifestyle do they want to live? And some of the more or less tangible, some of the more softer sides of the human being, those are called psychographic characteristics. So once you picked your ideal customer, you could also do it along the price point. The price point continuum, right? We've got first-time home buyers who are at the median to below price point. You've got your move-up buyer price point, which is going to be your median plus to, somewhere in our marketplace, that's going to be about 650, 700 to about $1 million, 1.1, 1.2. Then you've got your sub-luxury, you've got your luxury, etc. So pick your ideal customer. That way your marketplace and you will know who you're going after every single day as you're trying to put deals together and develop this area of expertise and specialization. The specialist gets paid more. Okay. Now let's get back to charging what you're worth. Let's talk about the 4 C's that I was talking about. The first one is creating value, or understanding really how value is created. And there are actually 4 different ways where value is created. The first is vision creates value. So what that means is that we're selling the vacation, we're selling the destination, not the journey. Agents sometimes get too caught up in, or salespeople in general sometimes get too caught up in this step, follow this step, follow this step. And if you talk to a home seller or a home buyer, man, that is not value creation. That is not anything that they get excited about. What they get excited about is you delivering an outcome. And when you can deliver the outcome that they want, and you can do it for a reasonable amount of money, you're able to charge what you're worth. Now, a lot of agents think that they may need to discount their fees because there are other agents that are willing to do so. We'll talk about that one in a minute. The next is comparison, and that's what I'm talking about. Not all agents are built the same. It is true that there are agents out there who are willing to discount their fees. And the challenge of that, of course, is that that's a race to the bottom. Nobody wins that one. And there are agents who would rather have a piece of business and charge less money for it. But of course, are they doing the same level of work? Are they providing that full service experience like I know you want to as a professional real estate agent? There's a difference between a professional and everybody else. Now, the professional delivers a higher end experience. It's kind of like when you hire an attorney, right? There's $300 an hour attorney, $500, $700, $1,000 hour attorney, right? The reason why they can charge more is because of the level of service and the more likely the outcome that they can deliver. Also, how you add value or create value is by helping people avoid mistakes. There is a cost of doing it wrong. And so there's a real value in your ability, your capacity to ensure the outcome as compared to what other people can do. There's a lot of people running around out there who are not skilled, who do not have the capacity that you do. If you're watching this video, it means you're searching. It means you're hungry. It means you want to be better. And so there's a lot of folks out there that would never even consider learning or growing because they're doing this as a side hustle, a part-time thing. Unfortunately, the consumers don't know that, or maybe they're striving to be a professional, but they haven't gotten the right training, they haven't gotten the right coaching, they don't have the right mindset, but you do. So keep watching. And then the fourth way to create value is indirect value, literally mapping out the step-by-step menu of services that you offer. Right, so I encourage you, if you have not written out the full menu of services that you offer, right? Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, when I sit down with you in my consultation, let me go over with you the full scope of all of the services that I provide. Now, you and I both know that that's a very long list, right? Consumers don't know that. Consumers don't really think about it, right? They think, oh, they send me some properties online, schedule some showings, open the door, write a contract, and then they cash a paycheck, right? And that is what some consumers think anyway. And so unfortunately, we know that's not true. And so your job is to very clearly demonstrate that value with a full menu of services. This is everything I'm going to do. Now, I don't know that you need to go super granular, right? There's got to be a balance between a handful and 100 different steps. And certainly you could exaggerate it, but you get the idea. For a seller, right, we know how many things we need to do. I'm talking about even before the listing goes on the market, all the research, all the preparation, everything you got to do to help the seller get the house ready for the market. And then, of course, everything all the way to the close. And then post-closing work, right, is part of that menu of services. So that's creating value. Okay. Let's talk about, and again, I want you to create your menu of services. Let's talk about confidence, knowing your value. Now, this is a mindset shift. A lot of consumers think that we are just a commodity, right? There's so many real estate agents, so many people can get their license. It's not a very hard, barrier to entry, right? Low barrier to entry to get your real estate license. Of course, you and I both know that there are professionals and then there's everybody else. And the smallest slice of the realtor pool, of the real estate agent pool, are the professionals. There's a very large slice of licensed real estate sales associates in the United States who do not practice real estate. And if they do, it's a one-off here or there, which of course means that there's no way that they're as capable as you are, someone who's fully dedicated to becoming a specialist, an expert, and a master of your craft. And so it's very important from a mindset shift perspective to know that and be able to communicate that. And you're not just a salesperson, you are a trusted advisor. You advise people on a very important problem in their lives that they're trying to solve. The problem is, I live here and I want to live over here, and they need help solving that. And they need an expert, they need a professional. So, what is an expert? Really important to contextualize the word expert. In my experience, the expert is the person who knows more than the other person they're talking to. But if you're talking to a consumer who has never had the technical experience of guiding another human being through the buying and selling process, which they could not have unless they were also a licensed agent, you're the expert. You know more than they do. Even if they bought and sold their own homes, right? I love that one when a consumer says, well, I bought and sold so many of my own homes. I know how to do all of this. And that may be true. They have some experience that they can draw upon to, hopefully make it a better experience for everybody. Some of them make it worse, but you're the service provider. You're the trusted advisor who can help guide that from start to finish. Also, it's important for you to think about when in your life have you added value to other human beings, whether it be in real estate or otherwise, and what can you draw upon in terms of how you showed up for that? Okay, so if you're an experienced agent, you could speak to your track record. And what you're going to do is you're going to lean into, in the next phase, the third C of communicate, is you're going to tell stories about how you were able to successfully help someone achieve the objective, avoid the problem, save money, etc. But if you are relatively new to the business and you don't have a lot of track record when it comes to selling real estate, then you'll want to look to other times in your life when you've been able to help people go through a transition, right? That's what buying a house is. It's a life event transition. And so you got to look to times in your life when you've been of service to others. How did you do? And what are the traits and the skills that you brought to the table, right? Very important for you to list out right now your traits and your skills that you've been able to bring to the table to help consumers in any capacity. Again, whether it be in real estate or in any service-related profession throughout your life. And then also understand the opportunity cost of working with the wrong person, okay? If you're working with the wrong person, it means you're spending your time, chasing your tail, right? That horse is just never going to cross the finish line. You've got to know that, which is why it's so important for you to know who your ideal customer is. And that way you can make sure you're spending your time specializing, working with those people who are going to highly value your service. Okay, third is communicate. You've got to be able to articulate your value in a meaningful way. So what I want you to think about is the stories of how you've helped people succeed. That's what people buy. Is they want to buy your experience. They want to buy your know-how. And the best way for you to demonstrate your experience and know-how is you've done it for other people. Again, whether it be in real estate or in any other walk of your life. And so being able to convey those stories of when you achieved the goal, saved them money, avoided the pitfall, that's really going to be very important when it comes to you communicating your value. Also, I want you to use analogies that might land. For example, if someone's objecting to your 3% list side, that's 3% list side commission or 3% buy side commission, I want you to say to them something like this. Let me ask you, Mr. Consumer, if you were going to hire an attorney, for example, to represent you in a very important matter, would you hire the cheapest one you can find or the best one you could afford? Of course, we all know the answer is the best one you could afford. Now, the can afford part is a relevant piece, and we're never going to spend anybody's money for them. But on the other hand, if you're providing a full detailed menu of services with all of the different variables of activity you need to do and problems you need to solve and times you need to show up, every one of those has a monetary value attached to it. And I'm guessing if you accumulated all of the monetary value attached to those things, your per hour rate would be relatively reasonable, certainly less than a high-end attorney. And yet we do the work in many cases that an attorney could do. I know we didn't go to 3 years of law school and have to pass the bar exam, but our work is very important. We help people go through a very important life event transition and transaction, and I want you to own that. I want you to feel that. I want you to be able to convey that to your consumer, which is why you deserve to be paid what you're worth. Okay, fourth is countering objections, defending your value, the ability for you to respond to as a buyer's agent, for example. So we know that sellers pay listing agents, buyers pay buyer's agents. And in the environment since the settlement last year, we now have to use buyer broker agreements in every state across the United States if you are a realtor. And so consumers are now being required as a practice change. It's not a law, by the way. Make sure you're not saying it's a law. It is, however, a practice change. And so consumers are having to adapt to it. And so in some cases, of course, I've been helping my agents overcome these objections since that initially rolled out. And we haven't had much issue getting our consumers to sign buyer broker agreements. In fact, we've been able to collect differentials if a seller is only paying X percentage of the buyer agency fee that has been contemplated on the buyer broker agreement. Consumers are paying the additional amount. So it's definitely possible and doable. But the consumer may say to you, well, I never had to pay this before, right? That's a common objection. I never had to pay a commission before. Of course, nobody works for free. And so all we have to do is reorient the buyer's mind to help them understand that, yes, in fact, they have been paying it all along because they're the one who brings the money to the transaction for the closing. Yes, the seller does carve off a portion of that and give it back to the buyer's agent for the work they did bringing the buyer. But that doesn't change the fact that the buyer brought the money. And so a good negotiator, another one of your key skills that I want to make sure you emphasize in your menu of services and in your differentiation of your skill set, is that you can negotiate a better deal perhaps for your buyer, in particular in the environment we're in right now with high inventory and lower demand, where you're basically going to get your fee paid for by the seller so that it's going to offset whatever they've agreed to pay you, right? So it's just a way of shifting the dialogue to help them understand that, yes, in fact, you have always been paying my commission. So I'm not going to go through all the possible objections that you can come across here today. That will be a very long video, and there's a lot of videos out there about overcoming objections. Here's what I want you to do, is I want you to identify the 3 to 5 most common objections that you hear from your buyers and sellers about commission. And then I want you to write them out. And I want you to practice with your coach or with your broker. Hopefully you got a good one, or the top producing agent in your office, or whoever might share your time, give you that time, and practice it, role play it, practice your scripts. That way you'll get better. Okay, I covered quite a bit here. Very important for you to understand the 4 C's of value and charging what you're worth. Number 1 is how to create value. Number 2 is how to, I forgot what was the other one. Oh yeah, confidence in knowing your value. Confidence in knowing your value. Third is the ability to communicate your value. And then finally, you've got to counter or defend your value. All right, here's your takeaway homework. I know you're staying with me on this. Number 1 is write out your menu of services. Okay, make sure you've got a full buyer menu. Make sure you've got a full seller menu. Number 2 is identify your 3 best stories, the ones that really resonate when you saved someone money, helped them overcome the problem, helped them create the outcome that you really wanted. You could tell the same stories over and over again, right? Because the consumer won't know the difference. They don't know that you just told it to somebody else. So get your 3 main stories. Number 3 is role play your value. Role play what makes you unique, what makes you a specialist, the skills and the traits you bring to the table that others may not have. And then number 4 is practice your objection handling. That way you're prepared. You don't want to wing it right when you're trying to get someone to sign that buyer broker agreement, sign that listing agreement. You don't want that to be the first, second, third, fifth time you're doing it. You want it to be the 105th time you're doing it, right? You feel me on this? Okay, if you like what I had to share with you today, like, comment, share this with anybody else, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to keep bringing more great content. Go get them. Charge what you're worth.